to introduce myself, I am Theo Pengelly, and I'm the head of digital assessment services at SQA. And really, I'm just here today to introduce today's session and then to hand over to the far more capable project strand leads who'll be talking you through some of the digital activities that have taken place as part of NextGen 8Gen. To give a quick bit of background and context to what we're going to be discussing today, the NextGen project has been an incredibly exciting opportunity for the digital assessment services team and SQA overall, because it's given us the opportunity to take forward this digital by design right at the start of the project and help support this approach across all the various work activities that have taken place across NextGen 8Gen. So I'm sure many of you have seen in your own professional contexts that more often than not, digital developments usually take place organically, and they can be born out of a range of different reasons, be they a response to a new technology, perhaps an organizational need, or even maybe one or two kind of digital pioneers in your own organizations. And what was so exciting about this digital by design approach and the fact that NextGen was kicking off and that was going to be taken forward as a key pillar of activity was that it gave us an opportunity to be there at the start of a large, ambitious project. It's obviously going to have a huge impact across Scottish education, and gave us the opportunity from a digital service perspective to really think about how we could support the work of all the strands and implement a more kind of proactive and strategic approach to digital service design and digital transformation activities. You can see from the list of project strands there that the NextGen project includes a large and varied range of different work activities. And this afternoon, we're going to be reviewing 3 of these. So digital assessment and technology, digital publishing, and digital learning and support. I think what's really important to note is, although we're going to be looking at those 3 project strands, the people who've been working on them and the project leads who are going to be presented today have looked to try and make sure they've had the opportunity to collaborate across the entire project and support the entire project. So not just work in isolation, but really look at where there are opportunities for transformational activities that could support any part of the NextGen project. And this afternoon, we're going to be looking at those 3 areas that really do kind of look to support across the wider project in general. You're right to move to the next slide, please. So over the course of today's session, we're going to be looking at some specific examples of digital work that's been implemented from the outset with regards to NextGen 8Gen. And it's an opportunity for us to kind of explore and discuss some of these new digital approaches, the work that's taken place within the 3 strands, not all of the work that's taken place, but just highlighting some of the work activities that have taken place, looking at where those digital activities have got to date and where they may go moving forwards, and also look at new innovation opportunities that we're exploring. I think what's really important with regards to today's session is that we're really keen to make sure this is an opportunity not for us to just kind of talk about some of the work that's taken place, but to field questions, look at comments, and really have any kind of discussion and feedback from any of you attending today's event. And before we get started, I do want to just note one additional point, which is obviously a lot of the kind of discussion around digital transformation in 2023 has focused on the risk and the opportunities of generative AI. Today's discussion is going to reflect the digital work in NextGen so far, and so there won't be much of a feature with regards to AI and generative AI specifically. But if you are interested in finding more out about SQA's work in this area so far, and you want to engage with SQA and the work that's taken place so far and the work that we're going to be kind of collaborating on with the wider education landscape moving forwards, I would encourage you to join one of the 2 sessions focused on AI and assessment taking place this week as part of SQA Connections. So there is one tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m, which I think most of the places are taken for, but there's another one at 11 a.m. on Thursday morning. So if you want to take part in that discussion as well, there are going to be some focus sessions. So I would really encourage you to come along and discuss generative AI if you're keen to do so. As I said, this is an opportunity to not just see the presentation and the work that's taken place. We really do want to have a discussion and some conversations about the activities and the services that have covered. So with that in mind, there is going to be an Ask Me Anything question open for the duration of this session. on Mentimeter, and you can see it on the kind of instructions on your screen there. You can either use the QR code to scan in or just use the URL and then the code to go with it. And I would ask you all to use Mentimeter. If you're not familiar with it, it will be anonymous, so your question will come through. It will be anonymized, and for anyone that sees a question that they like the look of or is similar to a question they wanted to ask, you also have the functionality to be able to give a thumbs up to any specific question you like, and that will just let us know that question is high priority or relatively popular, and we'll make sure it gets asked. Alternatively, there's the more traditional way. You can just put your hand up in Microsoft Teams and ask in person, or you can use the Microsoft Teams chat function as well. And I'll be keeping an eye on both the chat and the Mentimeter questions throughout the course of this session. So I'll make sure that your question is asked at an appropriate opportunity. And with that in mind, and to try and get people thinking about both asking questions and thinking about digital transformation, we do have an initial Mentimeter question for you all. So if you're able to kind of either, as I say, use that QR code or just log in via the code that was given. I'm really interested just to kind of see kind of where people have come to this session from. So I really just want to know about how you would describe your own experience of digital transformation in your own kind of professional context. So if you could just spend a couple minutes, just write a response, and I'll be willing to see what some of those answers are initially. We're going to give it a couple more minutes because at the moment there's only one. But I'm just hopeful people to, yeah, there we go. Thank you very much. Yeah, just to see people kind of engaging with the format, but also really interested to see where people are coming at, because digital transformation means a lot to a lot of different people, and I think a lot of things get put under there. And hopefully you'll see some of the interesting approaches that we've taken with NextGen this afternoon. Hopefully you can also see how easy Mentimeter is to use. So in a couple of minutes, we'll move over to the Ask Me Anything question. That'll be available, and you'll be able to kind of have a look at that. And at any point a question pops into your mind, if you just stick it into the Ask Me Anything question, and we'll make sure that that gets asked. Yeah, lots of different approaches there. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, so I think that's probably a good time to move over to the next question. So that is the Ask Me Anything question. That one is now going to be open from now on. So as we go through the different Strand presentations, if you wanted to ask a question at any point, please just do put it into that Ask Me Anything chat, and I'll be keeping an eye on that. As I said before, you're also welcome to put your hand up and ask in person. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Lynn to talk about digital assessment and technology from Strand 6.
Thank you, Theo. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm Lynn McDougall. I'm one of the leads on the Strand 6 digital assessment. So I'll jump straight in and give a little bit of background on this strand. I think somebody just added a comment evolving to their experience. That's a bit like this strand as well. The strand is all about learning and evolving. So essentially, we're looking at investigating and learning from a range of new digital approaches. And we're doing that by implementing proof of concepts. So essentially, trialing and testing a range of tools and approaches with both learners and centres on to help support self-reflection of meta skills and also other assessment models that are used in NextGen. So some of these are project-based assessment, adaptive learning, group work, and self and peer assessment. So we've done around 3 of the proof of concepts so far, and hoping to continue in the coming year. And as I say, we've tested this with both learners and centres. So we are hoping to place the learner at the centre of the digital assessment journey and understand their experience and their pain points as well. As part of the implementation of the proof of concepts, we're also developing a bank of case studies that come out of these, but also we want to share the wider digital solutions and ideas from our centre. So anyone interested in sharing a case study with us, we're very happy to talk about that. And then lastly, also looking at continuing to contribute guidance on the implementation of digital approaches. So the example that I've chosen to share with you today is on project-based assessment, and it's a tool called Stellar, which was originally developed by the Daydream Believers pilot and in collaboration with Napier University in the context of creative industries. And really this tool is a way of allowing for continuous assessment of a practical project on the ground in the classroom and to generate discussion around the different stages of that project. So as you can see here on the right, there's 5 stages set out, and these in the background are mapped to the MetaSkills framework. So research is mapped to curiosity, concept is mapped to creativity, fail and fix, to sense making, and so on. And what this allows is essentially the instant feedback through real-time calculation of grades. So I'm going to show a little video in a moment which will explain that feature a little bit more. It's been piloted amongst the Daydream Believer pilot as well as our own pilot within NextGen. So we made it available to all pilot centres last year, and we developed an SQA module as well. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about this tool, there is an SQA module available when you search for it on the main site. But what I will do is just move on to the little video, which will explain one of the key features of this proof of concept, which is all around the instant grading and feedback. So if you could play the video for me, please, Jordan, thank you.
Key Activity 2, Assessing your learners. This can be completed in the classroom using a tablet device or mobile phone for creating an instant picture of a learner's progress. Go to My Projects. Select the project you wish to assess. Select Mark Students. The list of students appears along the left-hand side of the page. Select Mark Student and the learner profile displays. Mark the learner by dragging each slider across the category being assessed. Research, concepts, fail and fix, communicate, reflect. The marking description is displayed at the bottom of the page. Dragging the slider or entering the grade will display a preview of the mark rationale. The overall grade is displayed on the right-hand side of the screen. The spider graph will also generate a visual result. This is equivalent to the manual spider graph and can be shown to the learner to generate discussion around progress. Additional feedback can be added at the bottom of the page. Once the student profile has been marked, select Return to Student List or Mark Next Student to move on to the next learner profile.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. So hopefully that just gives a little bit of insight and a visual on how that would look walking around the classroom with those sliders and having that instant kind of look at the grades and the mapping to the meta skills and how that might stimulate discussion on progress throughout. So we have, as I say, made this available to all pilot centres. There's been some good feedback and some good uptake, but one of the challenges on the implementation is definitely the kind of subject-specific area that it is based on at the moment. So one of the key pieces of feedback is around making it more widely available to other subject areas as well. Another point shared with us was around making that meta skills mapping in the background more transparent, because that is actually one of the key areas that users found very useful. So that's something else to look at. And then also the potential for peer and self-assessment scenarios. So what will happen now is that we will build this into a case study, and SQA can look at placing resources where we feel the proof of concepts have real value, and take these further into the next steps. So that's just one example, as I say, of a proof of concept where we've also completed one on adaptive learning and on meta skills reflection, and we're about to start one on group work. So yeah, looking forward to sharing more about that in future. I'm happy to take any questions at this point, or to keep an eye out on the Mentimeter for any questions as well as the session progresses.
I don't know if you can see that one, Lynn, but there's a question there saying, do the marking descriptors have to be pre-programmed into the tool before use?
Yes, good question. That is indeed the case at the moment. So it is programmed in, and it is per subject area as well. So that's one of the pieces of feedback that we are looking at the moment. What would be great is if users could do that themselves in the background as an admin. So that's definitely something that's been fed back to us. Sorry, I'm just trying to have a look at the page. For some reason, it's not coming up for me. Always happens on live sessions, doesn't it? Is there any other questions that are standing out, Theo, that you could share with me?
Yeah, there's one other question here. What other platforms have you completed proof of concepts on out with the Stellar tool?
Yeah, so other platforms that we have looked at include adaptive learning and assessment. So one tool is called Abritsum. And I should say that we're looking at approaches rather than specific tools. So the focus is really to understand how this approach might help support learners and centres rather than the specific tools and platforms. But yes, one of them is called Abritsum. The other meta skills one we have actually developed or kind of further developed in-house through SQA Academy using existing resources, but we're looking at interim solutions, and if there is demand for this kind of tool, we'll look at further options going forward as well. And then next up, what we'll be looking at group work. So I can share more on that in future.
Okay, I think just looking for one more. Is this a template we can adapt for our own?
Yeah, that's another good question. So it kind of goes back to the first one, I guess, about pre-programming. So at the moment, it cannot be adapted by the user themselves. But again, this is a piece of feedback that we have taken and that's come through strongly, so that it can be customized for each individual context. So something that I think Stella is very keen to look at going forward. Thank you.
One final one then for now, Lynn, and then we'll move on. So how can centres access the Stellar app if they want to use it?
Sure. So you can just email NextGen at sqa.org.uk, and we will pick up that request. It's still available now, and there's also, as I say, an SQA Academy course available, which talks a little bit more about the background of the tool and how to use it as well.
Thank you very much. I think that's probably, we can, if you've got more questions around Stella or any of the other kind of proof of concepts, please do continue to kind of put them in the chat or put them into to Menti, and we can pick that up at another point. But with that in mind, we can now hand over to Catherine to discuss the next strand.
Hey, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Strand 13, Lucky for Some, which is all about digital publishing. My name's Catherine Crowe, and I'm the lead for the digital publishing side of things. Again, echoing what Theo and Lynn have said, feel free to ask questions using Mentimeter or comment with your thoughts. But also, if you feel like you want to use the chat function or put your hand up, I'm happy to answer anyway. So there we go. Perfect. Whew, saved by the screen. There we go. I'm keen to get your thoughts and your comments as we go along, because the digital publishing side of things is still evolving and really will be developed through feedback and comments from users. So it's good to kind of get your thoughts on that. So the digital publishing strand concept was really being discussed prior to the NextGen project starting, as there was a thought alongside and considering the Scottish digital strategy about how we can make our content more digital rather than the reliance that we currently have on PDF or Word. This also came to the fore with the new accessibility regulations implementation in 2018 and the reality that PDFs are notoriously inaccessible. So NextGen really gave us the exciting opportunity to fix the ideas that were circulating to something tangible and really quite transformational. Okay, so here we've got the slide, the vision. So we really started the project by holding a number of workshops and collaborating with lots of the other strands and people involved in that to initially get people's thoughts on what would need to be considered in terms of digital publishing and what that really meant in reality. And many came back with the thought that the digital publishing was what we would currently have, where it's PDFs available on our websites and platforms. And what we tried to shift that thought process was, rather than digital publishing per se, it was thinking about content management and how we can display and share our content in a far more digital way. And that really needed not just the practical side of things, but actual culture shift on how we share our content, and moving away from the idea of PDF and formatted templates that were able to be printed, but actually moving into the concept of content being displayed for people to access just what they really needed. So the vision was that wherever we had content, it had to be interactive and it had to be digital by design. And there were some really key provisos that came out of those workshops. So it had to be secure and it needed to have accessibility at the forefront, meeting and exceeding the guidelines for the web content accessibility legislation. And it needed to be accessible on any digital platform, or any digital medium. So if we think about smart boards or mobile phones, tablets, computers, and whatever else we're using in 10, 15 years, and it also had to be evolving. The key for accuracy and the long-term vision was really to work towards the single point authoring and viewing concept, where content can be written in the software, whichever software we decide to fix on, it would be being able to be accessed from that single point. That way, whoever is accessing that content is getting the most up-to-date information. And rather than what we have right now, where people will work on a Word document, it to's and fro's between different people, and we then save that and convert that into a PDF, and then we then upload that onto our website. The idea of digital publishing and single point authoring is immediate, and it's effective. It's right there for you as things are happening, so you don't have to wait for changes to be made. And ideally, one of the things that came out of the workshops was that people really wanted an automatic version control. And in the short term, we realised that we are still going to have to do this the manual way, and we'll update changes using history of changes, but recognising that automated version control was a really nice thing to have in the future, and also would make sure that we captured any changes as they were being input. And really going back to the beginning, it had to be digital by design, not designed with a PDF. And this is where the change of culture comes into play, not being written and being designed with a PDF or a template in mind, but actually thinking about the content and the user experience and how they will work their way through the content and what kind of content they really needed. Okay, Jordan, if we change the slide, please. Thank you. So the picture so far, trying to find something that did everything that we wanted was a big ask. And when you're looking at that blank screen and thinking, okay, so how are we going to make this actually happen? It was a big ask. So we looked around, and we were at that time using SharePoint within the workplace. And SharePoint had some really big plus points. Aesthetically, it looks good. It's easy to create content, and we could limit access to certain areas and create permissions for that security piece. So we had security of content, and people were already getting used to using SharePoint, having been through COVID, and many of us moving things online. We were all getting used to sharing documents and accessing content through that. The main concern that we had after the first phase, where we were using SharePoint, was the scalability piece, because each person that was accessing SharePoint through NextGen and through SQA needed an SQA email address, and really it became impossible to manage that and administer that and think about that scaling up. So in phase 2, we started thinking about other platforms, and one of the things that we came up with was Moodle, and we explored Moodle and realised that in the medium term, it could do what we wanted it to do, and we could explore that further to see what else it could do for us. So in the medium term, what we've decided is we've committed to piloting Moodle until at least 2025, and that will give us an opportunity to really identify what it can do. We've already started to identify plugins. We want to make sure that we're getting user feedback, and also align it to any point in time where SQA may get a content management system. We can align what we're doing with that as well. So Moodle does much of what we want it to do right now in the immediate term, and we're also already starting to get feedback, both positive and constructive, and it's giving us ideas and areas already for growth and development. So rather than me talking about Moodle, let me show you a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of it. We will just show you the link that we've got here and walk you through what we currently have, and then we'll come back and explain what's the next steps. Thanks, Jordan.
So now let's take a look at one of our digital publishing sites. For the purposes of the video, we have decided to select HNC and Acting and Performance. As you can see here, some basic guidelines on how to use the website that are already built in, but I will go into depth further on how to use the website. The content on this page is comprised of a few different sections, which can be seen here. First of all, we have the qualification overview. Then we have mandatory units, optional units, educator's guide, and then finally the grading model / grading pack. There are a few ways to navigate through the content. One way to do this is to scroll through the page and click on each individual section that you wish to look at, which I've previously shown. Or you can click on the top left here, which is the course index. Each section within here is hyperlinked and will take you directly to the content selected. Let's take a look at each of the different sections now. First, we have the qualification overview, which provides general information on the background and the key aims of the qualification. Next, we have the mandatory units. Here, we can click in and we can see any unit specification that we desire to see. For example, if we jump into performance skills, acting, voice, and movement, we will be able to see more information. Now that we're on the unit specification page, we can see that there's a lot of information located in here. We can first of all see the unit title, the unit code, SQF level, the credit, and where it's valid from. Also, a little bit further down we can see some general information on the unit. After the general information section, if you scroll down you will find a link to two sections. The link on the left, which can be located here, will take you to the unit specification. The link on the right will take you to the information for learners section, which you can share with your learners. When you click on the unit specification, this will take you directly to the unit outcomes. To navigate through the unit, you can either click on the next button down here on the bottom right to view all subsequent sections, or you can use the unit index, which can be found at the top right of the page. Sections 1 to 3 cover all the mandatory content within the unit, and sections 4 to 6 cover the non-mandatory content. For example, the meta skills and literacies that can be developed throughout the unit, as well as additional guidance on delivery. I will now click through some of these. Here you can see the evidence requirements, knowledge and skills, meta skills, literacies, and then finally more information. If you look at the blue banner at the top, you'll see that the unit is classified as a book. Furthermore, there's a tab with a More option. If you click into this, you will see two options. First of all, you'll see Print this book, which allows you to print the full unit specification. And then there's another option of print this chapter, which allows you to print a specific section, for example, the unit outcomes, or in this case, more information. We are now going to use the course index to go to the next section, the optional units. The optional units section works in exactly the same way that the mandatory units section worked. The Educator's Guide and Grading Model sections include links to the PDF version of these documents, which can be seen here. In the event that one or both of these sections appear as currently unavailable, please contact your NPDM, who will be able to clarify the status of these documents. If you wish to be unenrolled from the course, you can simply click on the More option up here, and then click the Unenroll Me from the HNC Acting and Performance. And, if we look at the top of the page, we can see two options, Home and My Courses. If we click on Home, this will take you to the Next Generation Higher National Digital Publishing landing page. This provides an overview of the NextGen project. If we scroll down on this page, we can also see that it shows My Courses. These are courses that you are currently enrolled in, and if we scroll further down, we can see all the other courses that are held on the website. And, if we look at the top of the page, we can also see the My Courses option, which, if we click into, we can see all the courses that we are currently enrolled in, and can easily click to view it. If you have any queries or issues accessing the digital publishing site, please contact your designated NPDM or email the NextGen mailbox at nextgen@sqa.org.uk. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay. So there's still a huge amount of work to do here, building in quality assurance pieces, looking at what else we can do. Obviously, Connor mentioned in that video about the print chapter and the print book. Obviously, because we're digital by design, we will ask, we're trying to encourage people to actually use it as a digital piece. And that's how it's meant to be getting used, is you can click on the sections, you can click on the chapters that you want. Obviously, there are people that will want to print it. So it is there and it is some functionality. Yeah, my heart's telling me as a digital person to use the screen where possible. So there's, as I said, there's still a huge amount of work to do. We need to start building in a feedback loop, both internally and externally, if we want people to come along with us on this digital path. Users and collaborators need to feel part of this, and also the users can be the people that are the most honest about their experience and what would really enhance their position with that. We want to widen user engagement and build on our scalability. And we're currently looking at a project for single point authoring, which is really exciting, utilising our writers and our editorial teams alongside the digital team to really start trialing something where we can work straight into the system itself and reduce that toing and froing and the need to create PDFs. We're going to be starting that just shortly, so through the autumn into the winter and coming out of the spring to see actually what does that look like. We've also identified one of the pieces of feedback that we had was it'd be nice to have notifications and communication coming from the site itself. So we've identified a plugin for Moodle that should allow us to do that and should allow us to communicate with users for the system, sending updates and notifications. And again, we'll be exploring that as we go into 2024, which is another exciting step. And finally, what we want to do is make sure that we're working on the aesthetics of the system. We still want to make sure that we're keeping the site clear and crisp and really looking at that minimal viable product piece so the user gets what they need rather than having to wade through additional content. But I think we have to look at what makes it encouraging for people to use, what draws people into the content. So that's really the next steps of where we're at. As I said, we still have a huge amount of distance to travel, but the shift towards digital transformation in terms of accessing content from anywhere and in taking on board things like the environmental impact of not printing has really been a positive one. People that we've collaborated with, people that we've gained feedback from have really been positive about the journey and been quite constructive in their thoughts. It has been a culture shift, and we hope that we can really bring users and contributors along with us on the exciting journey to making it digital first. So happy now to open to questions and comments. I'll try and answer anything I can, and also tell me what you think about digital publishing. What does what does digital publishing mean to you, and how we can build that into what we're currently doing. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Catherine. So I'm going to quickly kick off some of the questions that have come through on Mentimeter. There's a few have come in, so I might just cover a couple of them now and then have some time at the end want to make sure we've got time for Robert to get through his presentation as well.
Love it.
So the first one ties into your last sentence there, and it's about the culture shift. So can you please talk about the change of culture away from PDF and any of the key challenges?
I think it is a key challenge. I think we're also used to hitting that print button, and we're programmed really to think about how we write things in templates and how we use Word and how we convert that into PDF, and we've been doing that for decades. So I think to expect us to suddenly skip into the digital ideal that maybe we have as digital people in our heads, it is a hard one, and I think it's about bringing people along with you with that. So when we're having feedback from centres, when we're having feedback from users, and also feedback internally as well, it's about making sure that we're taking that on board, and allowing that whole process to happen. So you're taking on what challenges people feel about using digital. I think when we start building in the feedback loops and having those more regularly, I think that's going to be the exciting piece, where we can identify what are people's blockers for digital. Is it the screen size? Is it the fact that they like to highlight things with a pen because they print it? So what is it? And it's trying to get down to that level of detail about how we can support that change and support that culture shift. And it's not going to happen overnight. And yes, there is always going to be resistance to that because it's change fundamentally. And I think with much that comes along with change, no matter what that change is, there's always some slight resistance. But I think in the main, I think everyone's fairly positive about it because they can see that there is, we're talking about digital first for SQA. There's a Scottish digital strategy out there. So it is very much about trying to think about what we do. Things like the environmental factors come into it, about printing reams of pages. And if I'm honest, I think COVID has probably helped us along that journey, because people were at home and they weren't printing out documents where they maybe would have in the office. So we got used to, it goes back to, do we have to suggest that people are using two screens, or do you need to, read things differently on a mobile phone? And what can we do to kind of aid that to bring people along? So yeah, the culture shift is a huge question, and it is a blocker. However, we have to work out how we bring people along in that conversation about how we can support them with that, and build that into the changes as we make them. It's transformational. So I think anything with that is a big thing.
Definitely.
I hope that's answered it, but yeah, probably waffled on about that one a little bit.
No, it's really good. And just to say, there's loads of questions coming in. Thank you so much, everyone, for these questions. It's fantastic. Anything we don't get to during this session, we'll look to answer in the chat, so there will be a record. We will make sure your questions get answered. I can see there's one with there's a couple with thumbs up, so I'm going to go to the next one. With Moodle, will all lecturers be enrolled in units they deliver for direct access, or will it be managed by quality teams in each centre?
Good question. I think the ideal will be that lectures should be enrolled, because it is about getting you content. At the moment, I think it's being managed by the quality teams, but I think that's something for us to really consider, to make sure that I think one of the concepts that we had was we should be able to give you what we have, so you can implant it in your own LMS systems or your own virtual environments. So actually you should be able to get that content, and I'm not talking immediately, and I'm not talking this is going to happen in January, but this is something that's certainly on my list of things for the vision, is making sure that as we are creating content, that content will come to you through your VLE systems or through your LMS systems, to make sure that you have what you need at your fingertips. And I think that's the only way that we can make this work. I think if we start putting up blockers, or we start putting up difficulty to get to the content, we'll lose people wanting to use digital. So in an ideal world, and certainly something that I'm working to, is that content should be able to get dropped into your own systems. It's not happening yet, so I'm not promising it's going to be with you in January, but it's something that is on my vision of things to happen.
Thanks very much. That might answer another one of the questions we had about being able to access via college's own specific virtual learning environment. So we'll just do one more for now. Yeah, there it is up. Thank you very much, Jordan. So does Moodle have a built-in immersive reader for anyone who may need it?
It's one of the plugins that we're looking at. So obviously we're all, my team are also responsible for a lot of accessibility things. So we have had a lot of accessibility checks on the NextGen site. And it's one of those things that needs to happen. And it's being looked at through the autumn. So I'm hoping that by the time we get into the new year, we'll be able to make sure that perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Answered for me. Yeah, thanks. That's good to know.
Problem is, Kenji, you then go convince people to use Microsoft Edge. That's the real challenge of the piece. No, I appreciate that.
That might be the bridge. We'll make that happen.
That's right. No, again, I appreciate everyone's questions. We'll try to get to as many at the end of the session as possible. Any we don't get answered during today's session, we will. But I really appreciate all of that. Really good engagement. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you very much, Catherine.
Yes.
I just also, I'm going to take liberty as the facilitator here and say that I hope people can already see some of those strands that I mentioned up top of seeing where the different work across NextGen is able to kind of collaborate across different areas. So you have accessibility, you have meta skills, you have digital publishing, you've got and to me that's one of the really exciting pieces of NextGen in general, is that there is that collaborative opportunity and there is the opportunity to integrate all these different approaches together. So I hope people are starting to see, how interesting a kind of wider piece of work the NextGen project is and continues to be. And I'm now going to hand over to Robert for the final strand discussion, strand 10, digital learning.
Thank you very much, Theo. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Flavel, and I am a Digital Learning and Development Manager here at SQA, and I lead on strand 10 of the NextGen HM project, which is digital learning. So, as I mentioned, I work specifically within SQA Academy team, and SQA Academy is SQA's digital learning platform, and we deliver all digital learning for NextGen via the Academy platform. And what we do in the team is we work with subject matter experts across the organisation to design, develop and deliver bespoke digital learning and training packages to the wide range of audiences who are all contributing into the work that SQA carries out. So our two main target audiences are, firstly, SQA staff, which we sit at kind of roughly around 1,100, I think, at the moment. And we provide learning for staff ranging from induction training, soft skills, role specific, how to use specific pieces of software and CPD related modules. Our other largest target audience is our appointees, which sit at over 15,000 at the moment. And again, we have a wide range of learning available to our appointees, providing learning packages specific to each of the appointment types. Such as markers, invigilators, and principal assessors and so on, which cover a wide, kind of large number of users. So we also provide learning to some other important areas, such as NextGen. So Jordan, if you could kindly move on, thank you. So as I mentioned before, within the NextGen project, we sit within strand 10, and our remit for this is to support all other project strands on the creation, delivery and enhancements of all their digital learning requirements for the rollout of each stage of the NextGen HM project. Digital learning and support resources will be created as required for each potential learner group related to the project, including relevant SQA staff, appointees, centres, HN learners and the public. Apologies for reading that one out, even though it's on screen for you there, but we've always seen it as a kind of great opportunity to work with the NextGen project group and all the various strands within it. And as Theo mentioned at the beginning, it really has been a collaborative effort working with the kind of colleagues across the project to get to where we are today and watch the range of the work, the range of the kind of courses and the work that we do grow organically. So for this session, I had intended on kind of taking you through the various stages that we've gone through, from where we started, where we are now, and where we're going in the future. But kindly, the team kindly offered to create a video which illustrates the journey way better than I could ever articulate it. So rather than me waffle on, here's one we made earlier. Jordan, if you could please skip on to the video, thank you.
The Academy have been working in collaboration with NextGen HN to introduce NextGen to Scotland's colleges and learners. Our journey started with creating informational introductory content. At this stage, we wanted to introduce NextGen HN to our colleges and learners, to provide some background info, and to set out the objectives and what we hope to achieve. 3 key modules we produced at this stage were: what is NextGen HN, Metaskills, and the Pilot Center Induction module. We designated an area on the Academy and worked with NextGen's newly developed branding and design assets to ensure the course is slotted into the overarching NextGen identity. Our What is NextGen course introduces practitioners and learners to the concepts and background to the project, and provides an overview on the approaches, progress, and timelines. Our introductory Metaskills course provides a simple, clear introduction to the concept of metaskills and sets out examples for the learner, while the Pilot Center Induction module aims to give pilot centers an understanding of what to expect during development and pilot stages. As our work with NextGen progressed, digital learning has grown organically, and we're really proud to now be able to provide learning directly to practitioners and learners. We have collaborated closely with the NextGen teams and have created a suite of digital learning modules and have developed some interesting tools and solutions. The modules we have created include Metaskills for practitioners, Metaskills for learners, Learning for Sustainability, Unit Writing, and Quality Assurance. To make the learning content more rich and interactive, we structured the information into digestible and easily absorbed segments using various e-learning delivery techniques such as infographics, interactions, and animations, all of which helps with boosting engagement and information retention. Our Metaskills for Learners module uses interactive elements and activities geared specifically towards learners to better explain the concept of metaskills. Our Metaskills for Practitioners course was less about interaction and more about structuring the content effectively for that audience. We also worked with NextGen colleagues to produce a prototype Metaskills profiler tool. This tool allows learners to measure their development of metaskills throughout the year. This recorded learner journey means that learners can take charge of their own development. The team facilitated the technical side of capturing and recording this information. For the next phase of the project, the Academy are looking to provide more focused learning directly to learners. We are looking at areas such as referencing guidance, academic writing, and how to write a blog. We invite suggestions and ideas on useful topics for HN learners.
Brilliant, thank you. So, I mean, some key achievements for us over that time period is that, you know, it's allowed us to embed digital learning across the whole of the NextGen project. And by doing that, it's allowed us to enhance and grow the portfolio courses that we are able to offer for NextGen. It's also allowed us to move into a new area of providing learning directly to learners, an area that SQA hasn't really gone before. It's also allowed us to introduce digital badging into our courses. So looking ahead, after a successful trial phase of implementing digital badges, we aim to expand on that and make digital badges available for all NextGen courses across the board. Also, as I mentioned previously, we're keen to expand on the courses that we are able to offer specifically to learners and practitioners. And this is really where we want to hear from you. You know, we want to know what you want and what areas you would like us to focus on moving into the future. So Jordan, if you could move on to the next slide, please. The next slide is really just a list of what we have available at the moment. I mean, have a look at those just now. But really, what I wanted to do is use the Menti and the chat just as an opportunity for you guys to ask any questions that you have or any comments. But also, I wanted to put it back out to you and ask you a question. You know, what do you want? You know, what would you like us to focus on in the future? You know, I think with a lot of the things that we do in SQA is we're good at thinking we know what our customers want, but you know, without that engagement, it's always a bit tricky to get right. So please, I would welcome any questions in the Menti or the chat.
Thanks so much, Robert. I've got a first question for you then. Can everyone access the NextGen Academy resources, or is a login needed, and is including for learners?
Yes, everything available for learners is available, and it is available to guests as well, so there is no login details required. We do have some NextGen modules there that do require a login, and that's for tracking purposes and so on. But yes, they are available, and they're openly available.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And you'll see that Jordan's kindly posted a link to the SQA Academy NextGen modules page. So anyone that's curious, wants to go access those, you can access them via the link in the chat function. So the next question that's come through is, how have you measured the interaction with the Academy modules, and do you capture feedback from users?
So yes, to answer the second part, we do have feedback in every course that we put out. I mean, I think it's important that it's something that we're looking to do across the board anyway, but certainly for NextGen is we put a feedback form in each of the modules that we put out there. And, you know, we use the feedback that we get to help us kind of grow what we've done within the NextGen offering as well. You know, we're also using kind of data capture technique. You know, we're using Power BI, we're using some other tools built into Moodle to kind of really allow us to see what the engagement and the interaction figures are like. And, you know, if we're getting low engagement figures in one area, then we can use that as an opportunity to try and promote that tool a little bit more in certain areas and so on.
Thank you very much. I'm just conscious of time getting towards the end, so I just want to kind of make sure anyone that has any final questions, if you can make sure you get them into the Menti or into the chat, that would be really helpful. Thank you. While we wait on that, I've got one. I guess it could apply to either Catherine or Robert. I think it came through when Catherine you were giving your presentation, but it's about what are some of the Moodle plugins that you have considered? I don't know if either of you have anything with regards to plugins that you want to discuss.
Yeah, I'm happy to come in there. Rather than name them, I suppose the main ones that we're looking at the moment and considering are things to do with communication and feedback. So there's a few things that we're exploring on how we can gain real time and information back from people and create that feedback loop. And I suppose the other one that we are really looking at the moment is anything to do with accessibility. So screen readers, you know, how we can support our users best. So they're probably the two main pieces that we're really considering at the moment, are that accessibility strand and also that communication strand. As you know, as Robert's just said, that whole communication, that feedback loop is key in how we evolve and keep moving forward. Yeah, I suppose the thing to remember with the digital publishing side is we are still piloting. So what we see in Moodle may not be the final version of what we ever see. And the ideal will be that that we start moving down a more content management system as SQA as a whole. I mean, we don't know that's going to happen yet, but that's kind of, if I'm thinking with it, my kind of a digital head, that's the ideal scenario. And actually what we're doing in the digital publishing side of things can then be morphed into that content management system ideal. But the plugins mainly are to do with accessibility and communication are the key things.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Cheers. I'm not sure, Robert, if you want to add anything else on that.
I can jump in on that. There's not really any specific plugins that we've really needed to look for beyond what we already have for this project, but it's maybe important to note that what we do, just bizarrely, as the next questions come through here mentions Articulate Rise, and that is exactly what we use as a third-party piece of software on Moodle. So although we do use Moodle, we create all our courses within Rise, and we also use Storyline to create any additional things that we would look to create while we're creating the digital learning. So we do heavily rely on Articulate-based products.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, I think probably that's the last question that we have here. Nice softball for you to finish on. Was it easy to meet the PSBAR, the public sector body accessibility regulations from 2018 requirements when designing courses in articulate areas? I guess maybe can you speak around some of the accessibility work with regards to developing digital learning?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't easy. It's been more easy now that they have become compliant eventually. That was a kind of a bit of a stumbling block for us, but we've gone through several audits over the past couple of years to try and get to where we need to be, and obviously the weight on Articulate bringing their products up to scratch has been one of the biggest kind of hurdles for us over that time period. But they are now compliant. So a lot of that work that was done has kind of become redundant now because they've made the necessary changes. But I mean, it really just opened their eyes to what, going through the audit as to, I think, really just what accessibility means across the board, really. I think a lot of us in the team had a very brief understanding of where we needed to be in terms of accessibility, but having the audit really opened their eyes and showed us just exactly, just the level of kind of detail that was included in that. So yeah, it's been a long drawn out process, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, I'm sure not just in an SQA context, you'll find that kind of echoed across many different public sector bodies with regards to the kind of making sure that your digital content, your digital services are kind of compliant with the PSBAR. I'm conscious of time. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much, everyone. First and foremost, for joining us, for coming along to this afternoon's session. Really do appreciate people giving up their time, and really appreciate all the engagement and all the really interesting and insightful questions we've had. It makes it so much more of a rewarding session for ourselves, and hopefully for you as well, to see people engaging with the presentations and asking some really interesting questions. As I say, anything that hasn't been answered, some of those questions are probably relatively similar, so we'll try and make sure that the questions that haven't been answered are picked up in the chat, and we're giving clear answers to the questions that are left outstanding. I guess the last thing to say from myself is just to kind of reiterate the message that Catherine, Lynn, and Robert have all given, which is we would really want to encourage you to engage with any and all of the digital services and activities that you've seen today. I think a really important tenement of great digital service design is about iteration, and it's about engagement. We want as much feedback and as much engagement as possible with the work that we're doing to be able to iterate and to be able to develop the services. I've heard the phrase kind of work in progress used a few times. I think that's what's really important with the digital services. It's never done, it's always improving. And very much if you've seen something here that you'd want to engage with, please do get in touch with the service directly, and it would be really great to see some engagement come out of this. And I also hope that you found the presentations interesting, but maybe they've sparked some ideas for yourself to take back to your own professional context. So yeah, please do get in touch, and thank you very much everyone for joining us this afternoon. Cheers everybody.